Thousands more Pennsylvania medical professionals could approve cannabis for patients under proposals, you guys. That's right. They're going to expand the market space because nurse practitioners and podiatrists would be able to approve patients for medical marijuana cards in Pennsylvania under proposals awaiting action from the state's health secretary. Currently, you guys, only licensed medical doctors or doctors of osteopathic medicine can certify patients for Pennsylvania's medical cannabis program, which has hundreds of thousands of active patients. If approved, the change could expand access to the program, a shift that supporters say would give patients more options. The executive director of a cannabis group told Spotlight PA the move could even help lower the price of obtaining a card. Well, that's because there would be a lot more competition. So, yes, and it would totally lower the cost of the cards. But at least one state official has said telehealth already makes the program widely accessible. The recommendation from the state's Medical Marijuana Advisory Board comes as a bipartisan push in the state legislature aims to loosen restrictions for nurse practitioners and create a path for the professionals to operate independently from physicians. While those efforts have hit roadblocks, the potential for them to approve patients for medical marijuana cards has met little public opposition. A number of the states have allowed nurse practitioners to approve patients for medical marijuana over the years, and a guide from the cannabis certification company Leafwell lists more than 20 states where nurse practitioners or advanced practice registered nurses have the ability to recommend cannabis to qualifying patients. In a quote, "What is Pennsylvania scared of?" Judy Jenks, a nurse practitioner who runs a medical cannabis clinic in Virginia, said in an interview with Spotlight PA. "Is it the cannabis or is it the nurse practitioner? If you're scared of either one of those," she added, "then you don't understand either one of those, period," she says. Nurse practitioners who receive advanced medical education and training provide a range of care in Pennsylvania, and they can prescribe medications, diagnose conditions, and handle treatment plans, although that work is tied to written agreements with physicians. State lawmakers did not authorize nurse practitioners to approve patients for the program when they passed the medical marijuana law back in 2016, and at that time they made a number of compromises like this in order to gain enough support to get medical marijuana legalization bill through the Republican-controlled House. Lawmakers did give the state's Medical Marijuana Advisory Board and Health Secretary the power to make changes. However, in 2018, the Advisory Board chose not to recommend expanding medical professionals could participate in the program, but suggested considering the issue in the future. The podiatrist proposal would limit the type of qualifying conditions they can certify. The related report provided by the department describes how they could approve patients based on severe, chronic, or intractable pain related to the feet. You know what? In all fairness, I do remember back in the day when Bill O'Reilly was doing a hit piece on all these doctor pieces and whatnot, and he was referencing a doctor that I worked with about him giving a recommendation to a woman who got it for feet pain from wearing high heels. So I do remember that as a thing. So I find this very interesting. But nonetheless, the story continues. The nurse practitioner proposal does not include similar restrictions, and its related report, which was also provided by the department, says they treat all disease states and should have unrestricted ability to certify. A Pennsylvania Department of State spokesperson said state law authorizes nurse practitioners to diagnose all medical conditions, although they must fall within a clinically specific area in which the nurse practitioner is certified. The proposal doesn't offer specific guidance on how nurse practitioners should incorporate cannabis certifications into their agreements with physicians, and under both proposals, nurse practitioners and podiatrists would still be required to apply for the registry and complete a 4-hour training course, as physicians must. Pennsylvania's medical marijuana law gives the state's health secretary, Deborah Bogan, the power to approve or reject the nurse practitioner and podiatrist recommendations, and the changes would not need approval from the legislature. Multiple officials and industry experts told Spotlight PA. The state's Board of Nursing has shown support for the nurse practitioner's recommendation, and the advisory board's podiatry report said the Board of Podiatry agrees with the motion. A spokesperson for the Pennsylvania Department of State told Spotlight PA that the Podiatry Board has not formally taken a position on the issue. However, you guys, the health secretary is reviewing the recommendations, and a decision will be made by mid-November for the podiatrist and by late January for the nurse practitioners, according to the department spokesperson Neil Ruthland. State Representative Dan Frankel, a Democrat from Allegheny, chair of the House Health Committee, told Spotlight PA it makes enormous sense to add nurse practitioners and podiatrists as certifying practitioners. In a quote says, "I think they have the expertise in order to do it," he said. Christine Rousel, the member of the Medical Marijuana Advisory Board who presented the nurse practitioner's proposal at a public meeting in January, explained that a major rationale for the change is to, in quotes, to improve access to care for patients. And I'm going to finish the story right there. I think this is fantastic news. I hope that they do go through with this and make this happen. This story is pretty long and goes on and on and on. And if you want to read more about it, you can go to our website at www.high9news and check it all out. But I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this. I think this is a big win for the citizens of Pennsylvania.
That's a great win for access.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go to the foot doctor, leave with a sack of weed. I love it, man.
You're not going to leave the doctor's office with a sack of weed. You're going to leave with a recommendation for cannabis and be able to go purchase at an outside location, Rico.
I don't know, man. Back in the day back here, man, I used to go to the doctor to get my recommendation, and I go right to the next room, give me a bag, and the doctor actually gave me a vaporizer too. Shout out to Venice.
The doctor, yeah, that's not legal.
Yeah.
That's not legal.
That was Denver. That was Denver back in the day too. You get your recommendation in the back of a dispensary, and man, you could shop with your temporary paperwork. No rules about on-site consumption.
Come on, Sohum, you take your temporary paperwork and you weave up and down Broadway for an hour and a half until you hit Little Brown House and every other fucking dollar.
You got to go hit every dispensary and get every new patient special you can.
I will say this too, as being someone who we ran a doctor's office back in the day above my shop in San Francisco back in the early days during the Bush administration, and we did the very first telehealth recommendations during that time. And we had a nurse practitioner there that was doing pretty much all the work, and then we chimed in online to connect with a doctor who was staying in New Zealand at the time. And it went amazingly, and I don't see any reason why a nurse practitioner should be not allowed to do this, because in all realities, the nurse practitioner is doing a majority of the work for the doctor in the first place. And so, as far as for writing recommendations, I'm in full support of this. That this just helps it, is going to make it more available for patients, and is going to lower the cost for patients to receive recommendations, because there's going to be a lot more competition in the marketplace.
No, 100%. I mean, I'm branching out to podiatrist, Jason, you got some feet problems. You smoke weed because your feetsies hurt sometimes?
I mean, I have constant pain all the time, and that's just is what it is, and it's just is what it is. But I do not have a podiatrist. Maybe I need one. I don't know, but maybe we should have like real. The problem with Obamacare is that people with pre-existing conditions have to pay so much money for insurance that I just can't afford it.
Here we go.
It's not enough super chats in there for me to afford insurance.
It always comes back to Obamacare, right?
Just saying.
Come on, Jason. That's not very San Francisco hippie of you.
I'm not.
I touched a sensitive subject, and that's his toesies.
Right. You guys, we ran a clinic. We did recommendations, and we used a physician assistant. In fact, we had a couple of them to do the actual physical exams. And I remember meeting with Todd Miccaria and kind of chuckling about how stupid it is. We have to have a physician do this because Tylenol, aspirin, and Motrin are far more dangerous than marijuana. But and you can give a recommendation over the phone, but when it comes to weed, oh my God, it's like you're prescribing heroin. We've got to be careful here. And it's absolute nonsense, especially now you can go recreationally. You don't have to go get any medical recommendations at all in a whole host of states. Just go buy your weed if you're 21 or over. This is all nonsense, because in the medical community, they risk drugs on how dangerous they are. And cannabis is one of the least dangerous drugs you can find on the planet. And so we're still playing these stupid ass games. was something that's safe. No one's ever died from an overdose of marijuana. No cancer's ever been called from smoking marijuana. Yet you've got to jump through all these hoops, and they're still playing games. I think that you shouldn't have to have a medical recommendation, but we had to do that to get it through these legislatures and to get the initiatives passed. But people thought, oh, we're not just letting people have radioactive, depleted uranium out there and ruining our community. We're going to have some doctor overseeing it. It's all a bunch of crap.
Unknown caller.
Omar knows when you got to go to court and defend it, now you got to put your gloves on and fight, and you've got to have all your boxes checked off. And in the end, it's just basically bullshit they're pushing at you.
Where are you putting those hands, Jason?
Well,
I
just realized.
On his hurting feet.
I realized that I was moving too fast this morning when I came in the studio, and I just realized that my tin of utensils is not here, and so I need him to go and grab that.
You just grabbed two very valuable cast members of High at Night News, Jason. Be careful where you're reaching.
Whoa, easy there, easy there, easy there.
Yeah, be careful, man. It's green screen and AI. It's crazy these days, bro. It's crazy. Never know what
looks like
you might
she
pull out.
too.
Omar,
No.
Omar, do you remember that hit piece?
Myself.
Do you remember
Yarrow's
that hit
under
piece?
that desk.
Do you remember that hill piece that Bill O'Reilly did on Fox News back when he had the O'Reilly show? That was the hit piece on all the doctors' offices in Los Angeles back in like 2006, 2007.
I don't watch O'Reilly or Fox News, so I wouldn't have a specific memory, but I can't imagine a hit piece by Bill O'Reilly against the doctors. And I think that ended up precipitating a scare and making it harder for patients to get access.
Mm-hmm. Well, back in the day, I remember this whole thing vividly.
Since we're talking about
Your audio is very muffled. You're very muffled, Omar.
He's at Camp Nazaro at the Final Meadowlands.
Are you in the? Are you in? You're in Yarrow's living room.
Oh man.
Yarrow's not here yet. I was waiting for him to show up in his motorized wheelchair. We'll see him soon, hopefully.
Oh, his motorized wheelchair. That's so.
He used all that social equity money to buy a mule. He's driving that thing around.
Yarrow scammed the government to get him a rascal.
Mm-hmm.
Get him a rascal. He's like, wee.
Yeah, no.
Because of his gouts. Maybe he can go to the podiatrist and get a new recommendation that'll address his gout and foot issues.